Hello everyone, welcome back to Absolute Geography. In our previous video, we explored the ancient rocky core of India, the Peninsular Plateau. Today, we move from the highlands to the narrow strips of land where the peninsula meets the sea, that is, the coastal plains of India. Stretching along both the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, these plains may appear narrow, but they are among the most productive and economically important regions of the country. Let's find out what makes them so special. India has one of the longest coastlines in the world, including the island groups of Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep. The total coastline stretches for about 7,516.6 kilometers. These coastal plains were formed over millions of years through a combination of marine action, changes in sea level, and the deposition of enormous quantities of sediments carried by rivers flowing from the highlands. Geographically, they lie between the Ghats and the surrounding seas. Based on their location, they are divided into two major sections: the western coastal plains along the Arabian Sea and the eastern coastal plains along the Bay of Bengal. Both meet at the southernmost tip of the mainland India, that is Kanyakumari. Now, before we study these two coastal plains, we first need to understand some important geographical terms. First, we have submerged coastline and emergent coastline. Think of it like a giant geological seesaw. A submerged coastline forms when the land sinks or the sea level rises, causing parts of the original coastline to drown beneath the sea. As the seawater floods valleys and low-lying areas, the coastline becomes irregular, rocky, and deeply indented. An emergent coastline, on the other hand, is just the opposite. It forms when the land is uplifted or the sea level falls, exposing portions of the former sea floor. Since the exposed sea floor is generally broad and gently sloping, emergent coastlines are usually wider, flatter, and straighter. This single difference explains many of the contrasting features between India's western and eastern coast. There are some other coastal landforms that you must know. For example, an estuary is the tidal mouth of a river where fresh water mixes with seawater. A strong tidal action prevents sediments from accumulating, keeping the river mouth deep and navigable. This is why many natural harbors are found along the estuaries. Examples will include the Narmada and Tapi rivers. A delta is a low-lying landform created by the deposition of sediments at the mouth of a river. This is opposite to estuary. As the river slows down near the sea, it deposits the sediments it has been carrying and splits into several distributaries. Over thousands of years, these deposits build broad, fertile plains. The Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and the Ganga-Brahmaputra rivers all form large deltas. Then we have a lagoon. It is a shallow water body separated from the sea by a narrow sandbar or spit. Unlike estuaries or deltas, lagoons are formed mainly by the action of waves and coastal currents. The lagoons of Kerala are locally known as Kayals. The famous Vembanad Lake is one such example. Let's begin with the western coastal plains. These plains stretch between the Western Ghats and the Arabian Sea. They are a classic example of a submerged coastline. Millions of years ago, a massive block of land fractured and tilted downward into the Arabian Sea. As part of the coastline became submerged, seawater flooded the low-lying areas, creating a narrow, rocky, and highly indented coastline. One Famous example often associated with the submerged coastline is the legendary city of Dwarka, which many believe now lies beneath the waters of the coast of Gujarat. Now, because the Western Ghats stand very close to the Arabian Sea, there is very little space left for the coastal plains to develop. As a result, the western coastal plain is quite narrow, averaging only 50 to 80 kilometers in width. The rivers flowing down the Western Ghats are short, swift, and descend steep slopes. Instead of depositing large quantities of sediments, they rush directly into the sea, forming estuaries rather than the deltas. The western coastal plains are divided into four distinct regions. The northernmost section is the Gujarat coast. It includes the Kutch region, the Kathiawar or Saurashtra Peninsula, and the lowlands surrounding the Gulf of Khambat. This region is known for its extensive salt marshes, tidal mudflats, and unique coastal landscapes. The Run of Kutch, one of the world's largest salt deserts, lies in this region and transforms dramatically during the monsoon when large parts of it are flooded with seawater. Moving south, we enter the Konkan coast. It stretches from Daman to Goa. This coastline is rugged and rocky with numerous creeks and beautiful sandy beaches. It is also home to Mumbai, India's financial capital and one of the country's busiest natural harbors. Further south lies the Kanara coast, extending along the state of Karnataka. This section is characterized by narrow coastal plains bordered by the lush green slopes of the Western Ghats. Numerous short rivers descend rapidly from the hills, creating several estuaries before entering the Arabian Sea. Then the southernmost section is the Malabar coast, stretching from Mangalore to Kanyakumari. This is one of the most distinctive coastal regions of India. It is famous for its kayals or backwaters, long narrow lagoons running parallel to the coast. We have talked about it previously, lying in Kerala. These brackish water bodies have formed due to the action of waves and coastal currents that created the sandbars separating from the sea. The backwaters support fishing, inland water transport, and tourism. This makes them an important part of Kerala's economy. Every year, these calm waters also host a spectacular Nehru Trophy Vallamkali, popularly known as the Snake Boat Race. So, the western coastal plain is narrow, submerged, and characterized by estuaries, natural harbors, and the famous backwaters of Kerala. Now, let's move across the peninsula to discover why the eastern coastal plains look completely different. These plains lie between the Eastern Ghats and the Bay of Bengal. Unlike the western coast, this is an emergent coastline. Over millions of years, tectonic uplift combined with the continuous deposition of sediments by the rivers created a broad, flat coastal plain. As a result, the eastern coastal plains are much wider than their western counterparts, ranging from about 100 to 130 kilometers in width. The rivers flowing towards the Bay of Bengal travel hundreds and in some cases thousands of kilometers across the Indian peninsula. By the time they reach the coast, they have slowed down considerably and carry enormous quantities of sediments. Instead of cutting deep estuaries, these rivers deposit their sediments near the coast, gradually building some of the largest and most fertile deltas in the world. The eastern coastal plains are divided into two major regions. The northern part of the eastern coastal plain is known as the northern Circars. It extends along the coast of Odisha and northern Andhra Pradesh. This region is home to the vast Mahanadi Delta, one of India's largest deltaic plains. It also contains Chilika Lake, the largest brackish water lagoon in India and one of the country's most important wetlands. Every winter, thousands of migratory birds arrive here from different parts of the world, making it a paradise for bird watchers. South of the northern Circars lies the Coromandel coast. It stretches across the southern Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, reaching all the way to Kanyakumari. Several rivers, including the Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, have built extensive deltas along this coast. These fertile plains support intensive agriculture and are among the most productive farming regions in the country. And for this reason, the Krishna Godavari Delta is often called the rice bowl of South India. Now we can finally answer one of the most frequently asked questions in examinations. Why do rivers on the western coast form estuaries while those on the eastern coast form deltas? The answer lies in the nature of the two coastlines. The western coastal plains is narrow and steep. Rivers descend rapidly from the western Ghats and enter the Arabian Sea with high velocity. Because they have very little time and space to deposit sediments, they carve deep river mouths known as estuaries. While the eastern coastal plains, on the other hand, is broad and gently sloping. Here, rivers slow down before entering the Bay of Bengal. As their speed decreases, they deposit enormous quantities of sediments. Over thousands of years, these sediments accumulate to form large and fertile deltas. So remember this simple rule. Fast rivers form estuaries, slow rivers build deltas. Let's quickly compare the two coastal plains. The western coastal plain is narrow, forms a submerged coastline and is characterized by estuaries, natural harbors and backwaters. The eastern coastal plain is much wider, represents an emergent coastline and is famous for its extensive deltas and fertile agricultural land. If you remember these key differences, you will be able to answer most of examination questions on this topic with confidence. So why are the coastal plains so important? First, we'll talk about the agriculture. The fertile alluvial soil of the eastern deltas support extensive cultivation of crops such as rice, coconut and sugarcane, making these regions among the most productive agricultural areas in the country. Now, with a coastline stretching over 7,500 kilometers, millions of people depend on marine fishing and related activities for their livelihood. The coastal waters are rich in fish and other marine resources that support local communities as well as the country's economy. Ports and international trade. India's long coastline has also encouraged the development of several major ports including Mumbai, Chennai and Visakhapatnam. These ports handle a significant share of India's international trade, connecting the country with markets across the world. The continental shelf of the India's western coast contains valuable reserves of petroleum and natural gas. One of the country's most important offshore oil field is Bombay High, which has played a crucial role in India's energy production for decades. And that's the story of India's coastal plains. In the next video, we'll trace the rivers that connect these landscapes as we explore the drainage system of India.